Hello, my name is Jackson King. Welcome to my impact project about inclusive playgrounds. There are many reasons why inclusive playgrounds are very important. Alright, let's go over a few things right now. The objective of inclusive playgrounds is to include everyone. It should be a safe place where children of all abilities can play together. Now, why is this important to me? Well, for a few reasons. But mainly, I have cerebral palsy. I have done some research about inclusive playgrounds, and I have a few questions for an expert friend of mine.
Hi, Jackson.
We are talking to my former therapist, Meredith Arno. Yeah, she's pretty awesome. The first question I asked her, what do you know about inclusive playgrounds?
I actually helped plan the one that's in West Columbia that opened this past year. And I've also helped plan one in another state through sort of a contact from a student. And what is nice about inclusive playgrounds is that they have access for children with special needs, but also are a place that are fun and accessible for typically developing children too. And that's what we were trying to do for the one in West Columbia, is make one where siblings could play together. And so what we try to do is make it as safe a place as possible and as easy to keep up as possible. And especially now with coronavirus, we need surfaces that are easy to clean and maintain so that people stay healthy. So we like to, the newest surfaces we're trying to use in inclusive playgrounds are the poured rubber that are softer in general and have some bounce to them, and it's just not as painful when a child falls. They are more expensive initially, um, but over time they're less expensive than, say, mulch or the rubber recycled tires and stuff, because you have to continue to replace those over time. And with the poured rubber, you once it's done, it's done. So we thought for the West Columbia playground it was worth the expense to do that.
Okay, thank you. What exactly do inclusive playgrounds have for special needs children?
First off, we start to look at swings. Um, and at the inclusive playground in West Columbia, we have regular swings for typically developing children. So the sling swing that you would sit in. We also have a couple of toddler swings that are things you would see at any playground that had swings. Um, but for the special needs kids, we have um, a swing that is a full supported back. And it looks a whole lot like a seat you'd find on a roller coaster. So it's got the full back around them and then a 5-point harness that you can put them in and they'd be fully supported. And then that whole thing is on a rocker that swings. Um, and so that's a full support, and that works whether a child has a wheelchair or not. You can just pick them up and put them in that chair. And then there's also a wheelchair swing where it's a metal ramp with tie downs where you can wheel the wheelchair up onto the ramp, close the ramp piece of it, and it's a heavy duty metal platform that has tie downs for the wheelchair, and the whole wheelchair locks into place and you can swing the child within his wheelchair. So those are the swing adaptations that you can consider for an inclusive playground. Then the climbing equipment tends to need to be lower and not have things like necessarily monkey bars and high levels. There's more stuff just to kind of climb through and over and under to give that climbing experience, but without getting too far off the ground.
It's amazing that you helped design a few of these. Do they actually help you with physical therapy for your clients? I know you use a lot of specialty equipment. I've been on it, but do inclusive playgrounds help you with physical therapy?
Yes and no, in that they're really meant for just full-time play, and I don't necessarily have access to do it during a PT session. Um, the We were going to attempt to do that when COVID hit, because we were starting to approach spring and we were talking about having some out of clinic sessions with the children at the playground, but then coronavirus hit and we haven't been able to do that. And so hopefully in the future, we'll be able to have some out of clinic therapy sessions where we can work on those things. But in general, the inclusive playgrounds really are just meant to be, enjoyable for the whole family, not necessarily having to be a therapeutic intervention with everything we do. But if I were to take a child to the playground, what I would do is watch them sort of negotiate that. So if they walked, I would take them and, walk them around and see what they could do by themselves or with minimal assistance. And so I would take them around, see what they could do without me, and then start seeing how I can help them maneuver the playground equipment and things like that. So if I were to watch them climb on the climbing stuff, or they didn't even want to try it, or they were afraid to climb through, say, a tunnel or something, then I would help them do that, either physically help them do it or just encourage them and give them motivation to do something that is a little bit scary for them. And then maybe use something that they enjoy, like they enjoy a swing, is that's the reward for climbing through the playground equipment and stuff. So
That is really good to know. Is there something that you wish the playgrounds could include that they don't currently have?
in general, the um, and the inclusive playgrounds I've seen do as good a job as you possibly could with what is available and what is affordable. That's the big thing. It's a lot of these inclusive pieces of equipment are extraordinarily expensive. And so it just depends on what the budget is for these kinds of things. But I would say the West Columbia one that just opened has done an excellent job in having areas to sit and eat that have wheelchair pull-ups. They have bathrooms that are wheelchair accessible. They have diaper changing stations. They've really thought of everything. And so I'm not sure I can think of anything that they need to include now. They've gotten better over the years. There was one that I helped with years ago in Lexington where they did a special needs playground, and it was separate from the regular playground. And I kept arguing with the town council that it needed to be closer to the regular playground because you were going to have families have to split their time, because you could not, from the special needs playground, you could not see the regular playground. It was down a hill, and there's no way that a parent's going to let one kid go running down into the playground and have to stay up with their special needs child. So the thing that needs to be thought of when you're doing an inclusive playground situation is that take into account that a family is going to have a special needs child and possibly other typically developing siblings that don't need that access or that special equipment, but need to be close to each other. So where the inclusive equipment is put is very, very important. So it needs to be near the regular, typically developing playground equipment so that families don't have to divide and conquer.
Thank you so much for your time. For my final question, what changes are needed in the world in general that can be found on inclusive playgrounds?
In general, the world could learn a lot from these playgrounds. Height, the size of things, how difficult it is to maneuver with a wheelchair or an assistive device like uh, forearm crutches or a walker. Um, it's very, very hard to get in and out of stores that don't have automatic doors. It's very hard to maneuver across parking lots sometimes to things. And in terms of outdoor play, there are a lot of areas that are very difficult to manage with a special needs child. I think in particular, just in comparison to a playground, trying to get to a soccer field to watch one of your children play soccer and have to try to get a wheelchair across a lot of grass and stuff. A lot of times there's just not an easy way to get around. Um, but just in general, the thought that we need to include children with special needs and think about in general the people with disability, and their ability to be included in events that would be enjoyable in a crowd, like an outdoor concert, sporting events, things like that. Being able to be included in those things and make it where it's not an extraordinary effort to get to things.
Thank you, Meredith Arno. You are amazing, and thank you so much for your help and for your expertise.
Bye, Jackson. I miss you.
Now, armed with that knowledge, we need to make all the playgrounds inclusive. What you see here is not built for special needs kids, and that makes me sad. Take a look in your community and see what you can do to help people with special needs. Inclusivity helps everybody. I hope you enjoyed my project. I'm off to find more inclusive playgrounds for people like me.